Hey guys, good morning. It is July 29th, 2025, Tuesday morning. And out here in Central Florida, it is 78 degrees. The skies are legitimately clear, not a cloud out there that I can see. It's going to be very hot. The humidity right now is 92%. So it's very buggy, very still, but I don't mind it. It still feels pretty good. Hopefully it'll lighten up the rest of the day. Anyway, as I'm sitting out here preparing my notes, I had my glasses on, my reading glasses, and they were fogging up already. And I'm glad I don't have to wear glasses on a regular basis for, throughout the day. That would just drive me nuts. I don't know. I'm not sure. I've never had to wear glasses like that. Everybody in my family did. Everybody, except my younger brother and I. My younger sister too, but there's enough people in our family. It always seemed like everyone was wearing glasses. And at one point as a child, I was actually jealous and I wanted to wear glasses. And that just seems insane to me. And I used to stick bright lights in my eyes, hoping that they'd go bad enough to need glasses. And I always look back at that and think to myself, I hope I didn't do damage to them back then that I'm going to pay for later on. But I think anything that happens now can just be attributed to older age. And my older brother, the one that's 4 years older than me, he actually needs bifocals. I think he's had corrective eye surgery or LASIK, and that might have curtailed some of that. But I know for a while there he had to wear bifocals when he read, and I just think, oh, that'd be the worst. And anytime I think of bifocals, I think of Burgess Meredith on that Twilight Zone episode where he loves to read, he works in a bank, but some kind of, I don't know if it's like a nuclear war, but something happens, some kind of fallout, and everything in the world is obliterated except him. He's alive, he's the only one, but all the books in the library are still around, and he is as happy as can be because now he can read uninterrupted for the rest of his life, which seems terrible to me, and probably to most people, but he liked that. But I did find an interesting fact about bifocals. You should know Benjamin Franklin invented the bifocals. You know how he did it? Here's what it says. Ben Franklin invented bifocals by cutting his two sets of glasses in half and gluing the mismatched pieces together. Now, this is a guy who's credited with many, many inventions. And this one sounds like a fairly simple one, yet who would have thought to do what he did to get the results that he got? The difference between people like him and many of us is that when he has an idea, he acts on it. He literally acts on it. You know how many ideas that you and I have had that we have done nothing with? And we've always wondered, I wonder if anybody's invented that yet. And if you have ever read books about great inventors and inventions, like Tesla and Edison and whatnot, even the Wright brothers, you'll discover that at the same time, in some other part of the world, someone was working on the same exact thing. And the two people, or all the different entities, had no idea. So there's a term for this, and I can't remember, I just read about it recently, but there comes a point in time when certain things occur in the minds of people in society and civilization that this is the reason why inventions happen the way they do at the times they do. These ideas just occur, and they happen in many different places, and that's why you have these patent wars, and people think, oh, somebody stole my idea. Well, in some cases they do, but in other cases they just were thinking about it at the same time. So it becomes a matter of a race between inventors to get things done, and they don't even know they're in a competition. My point being is, if you have an idea, you should probably act on it. And myself too, I should act on it, because I've had plenty of them, and I've wondered if someone has invented something yet. And then lo and behold, sometime after that, might be a while, that thing comes out. I can't even think of examples now anymore because I haven't been in that mindset for a long time. But if you have an idea, you should probably write it down and act on it. Even if it seems small, insignificant, trite. It doesn't matter. You just never know what might happen. So yesterday's video, I didn't like the way the resolution on that video turned out. I think it was because I was using low light mode, because I started making the video before the sun's right in my line of sight right now, just right directly at my eye. But yesterday morning when I started out, it was a little bit darker, and then, it constantly got just a little bit lighter. And I think that low light mode on my camera kind of hurt the resolution, so I have it in normal mode now. Hopefully it'll look better. No one said anything, so they probably don't care, but it mattered to me. I thought it looked terrible. The video I made yesterday had to do with how consistency is greater than authenticity. Now, I knew this would make some people bristle because we live in a time when this kind of thing was not discussed generations ago. People just got up, they went to work, they did what they did, and they didn't have time to sit around and philosophize about this, that, and the other. They didn't have the time to scroll social media because they didn't have it, and compare notes and see who was smarter or wiser. Well, maybe wiser, but they just didn't. They didn't fuss over the minutia like we do now. You might have had certain cliques that did, but now everybody wants to do it. And so when you start talking about things and start parsing things out and saying things like consistency is greater than authenticity, people are going to have a problem with it because they've heard something for so long. You have to realize that a lot of these ideas about authenticity and being yourself and self-esteem and a lot of those ideas were born around the early 1970s, some of them earlier. And many of us, at least my age and somewhere around my age, maybe a little bit younger, have just taken these things for granted because we've heard them for so long. But, I try to make these videos somewhat challenging. I hope they make you think, and they do. But I've had a couple people bristle at the idea of my last couple of videos, and I'm glad, because that means it got to you. It means it's making you think, which I'm very thankful for. One individual left a comment yesterday, and I don't mind. I wish he would have left it up because I had an answer. I was typing. Oh no, I was typing. I was writing out my answer. Clicking the little buttons, and then when I tried to post it, it wouldn't let me do it. So there was an error. Well, I discovered that he must have deleted it. But I want to kind of try to capture what he was saying, because it's something that a lot of people are going to say. He kind of embodied what I expect people to say about not liking what I had to talk about. And he says, I would rather be authentic than fake. Can't we be consistently authentic? Well, here's the thing. When I'm talking about being consistent, how it's greater than being authentic, no one's talking about being fake. No one's talking about being fake. And this all comes from Seth Godin's book, The Practice, and he's talking about, the world doesn't need your authenticity. They need you to show up. They need you to put out the work. They need you to be punctual. They need you to be trustworthy. And this is something that's very important. And when you're solely focused on being authentic, you're living by the seat of your pants. You're living by your feelings. You're divulging every thought, and you believe it's your right. And you become essentially the most important person in the room. But that's not what makes the world go round. So I responded to him, but he never got to see it because he removed his comment. So I'm going to give you the answer here that I gave him. And what I said was, no, you can't be consistently authentic. And Seth Godin talks about this himself, so I'm kind of mirroring what he's saying, but I go on to add my own thoughts here. Meaning simply laying bare your thoughts and feelings and allowing that to dictate your trajectory. The world doesn't care about that. They really don't. The world does not care about how you feel and think. And if you expect to have social currency, you're going to have to remember that. If you want to turn out good work and expect people to trust you, you have to be steadfast. Steadfast. What you think and feel is authentic. But wearing your thoughts and feelings on your sleeve will rob you of all social currency, as I just said. If you practice restraint at all, you are not being 100% authentic. Babies and toddlers are authentic. guard dogs, hungry lions and wolves are authentic. We are neither babies nor beasts. True leaders, entrepreneurs, and anyone who cares to make a difference understands the value of rock-steady behavior. A mission-minded individual knows there is something bigger than himself to which he sets his face like a flint. Okay, so a person who has a mission, a person who has a purpose, a person who has to show up every day, who has to do the work, who has to prove himself in this world, cannot be solely focused on being authentic. He has to work at improving. One of the examples I go back to is in the Bible, and a lot of you don't care about this, I understand, but I'm using this as an example. In the Bible, it never talks about being authentic. It does talk about being Christ-like. We should conform ourselves to the image of Christ. We should be like him. How authentic is that? And yet, it's asking us to excel to a more godly behavior. And when we're being authentic, I can guarantee you we are being anything less than godly in most cases. So if you want to be authentic, you go right ahead. But good luck with that. Let me know how it turns out. And when I mention here about setting your face like a flint, I want to explain where that comes from. And this is actually referred to in the Bible. That's why I'm familiar with it. But I want to make it clear to you guys what that actually means. So if you Google, what does it mean to set your face like a flint? Here's what it says. To set your face like a flint means to demonstrate unwavering determination and resolve in the face of adversity. It implies a steadfast commitment to a goal, refusing to be swayed or discouraged by challenges or opposition. The phrase evokes the image of flint, a hard, durable stone, and suggests a strong, unyielding spirit. Okay? So that's what we're talking about. This kind of smacks of stoicism, right? If you're really focusing on being authentic, you're going to have a hard time being courageous. And some people say, no, that's not true because I am courageous, I am brave. Well, that means you're also going to have to be facing some fears. You're going to have to be staring down the barrel of culture that does not have your best intentions or does not have your best interest in mind. So think about that. Are you always, you can't always be authentic. You have to step up. And that means getting beyond ourselves and out of the comfort zone. Now, I don't want to beat a dead horse, so I'm not going to say much more on this, but I will tell you where this is found in the Bible, since I did bring it up. It says in Isaiah 50, verse 7, "For the Lord God will help me. Therefore shall I not be confounded. Therefore have I set my face like a flint, and I know that I shall not be ashamed." And there you go. I'm going to leave it with that. You guys can leave your comments. You can disagree or agree. Makes no difference to me. I do appreciate the back and forth, though, and it might give me something to comment and talk about here. So anyway, let's move on. Did you hear about the woman who married herself? Yeah. What is it with people these days? People have gotten so weird. I'm glad I'm not in the dating scene. So I found this on Instagram. I'm going to share it on the screen right here. A British woman who married herself in 2015 later confessed she'd cheated on herself by dating a man who then decided to marry himself too. Alrighty then. So, let me give you the word of the day. I do like including that. The word of the day is nonfeasance. It means failure to perform a given duty. Someone who is bound to act in a certain way and does not is guilty of nonfeasance. All right. Do you like fairy tales, horror stories, and things of that nature? I was flipping through a book last night, and I was reading about Hansel and Gretel. Okay, about Hansel and Gretel, and we all are probably somewhat familiar with this story. You might have forgotten it, but you've heard about it. And while this has no connective tissue to anything else I've been talking about this morning, I think you'll like this and hopefully remember it. It'll give you something to maybe talk with your wife or husband about. Here we go. You might want to share this video, by the way. All right, so the story in which two children outwit a witch who is about to destroy them comes down to us from the brothers Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm, who began recording folk tales told to them by villagers and farmers near the town of Kassel, Germany, about 1807. It's a long time ago. And by the way, if you've never looked up Kassel, Germany, spelled Kassel, do that. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. Look it up on YouTube. The brothers collected 156 stories in all, many of them similar to tales preserved by Charles Perrault, such as Cinderella and Puss in Boots. Hansel and Gretel was told to the young brothers by young girl Gretchen Wild, who years later became Wilhelm Grimm's wife. The fairy story gained wide popularity after German composer Engelbert Humperdinck made it the basis of a children's opera first produced in Munich in 1893. I know what you're thinking. No, it's not that Engelbert Humperdinck. I didn't even know there was another one. But anyway. However, the opera, as well as subsequent versions of the story, omits the most traumatizing aspect of the traditional tale: the parents' deliberate abandonment of their children to the wild beasts of the forest. Did you know that? Hansel and Gretel was not only known through German oral tradition. Versions circulating in France as early as the late 17th century had a house made not of gingerbread, but of gold and jewels, in which a young girl is held captive by a giant whom she eventually shoves into his own fire. But it was the brothers Grimm who immortalized the tale for future generations. In Germany, the story lost popularity following the atrocities of Hitler. Shortly after the war, when a major exhibition of children's books was presented in Munich, many people objected to the story's celebration of incinerating an opponent in an oven. And good for them. Next time you want to group all Germans into that horrible Nazi idealism, remember, they didn't all feel that way. But interesting account of Hansel and Gretel, if you like that kind of thing. All right. I think red is probably the most striking color. Most of us would agree. We like red cars. Men love red lingerie, not wearing it, but looking at it. We roll out the red carpet. When we become angry, our face grows red. Red symbolizes a lot of things. It conjures up a lot of imagery, doesn't it? But I have a book that talks about what red means to different cultures and different times of the world. And this is just one example. Red oftentimes stands for fertility in some places. And here's how this goes. In the ancient world, Neolithic hunters thought red was the most important color because they believed it had life-giving powers. Their cave painters drew animals in red ochre or iron oxide to represent their fertility. Ancient Egyptians rubbed the bodies of their dearly departed with red ochre to give them a lifelike and fertile appearance in the hereafter. Okay. Brides in ancient Rome wore red wedding gowns as a symbol of love and fertility. Red wedding dresses and veils are still popular in parts of Asia. And it's not for nothing that some American brides and grooms enter their churches or temples walking on a red carpet. So, red, in many cases, is linked to fertility. Okay, there you go. That'll give you something to talk about. All right, let me give you the quote of the day. I'm going to leave you with this. All right, and this comes to us from the playwright George Bernard Shaw. He said, "A gentleman is one who puts more into the world than he takes out." A gentleman is one who puts more into the world than he takes out. I hope that inspires you. Do you focus on that? Do you think about giving back? You know, my father, when I worked for my father, he was meticulous about how he left a job. He would put things back. He was a painter by trade, okay, along with being a preacher and a pastor of many churches over the years. But he's a painter by trade, because many pastors do have to work on the side to make any money. And he had done that ever since college. But I worked with him for many years, and one of the things I always respected about my father is he always left a job site better than it was when he arrived. And I remember asking him, because it kind of annoyed me at different times, Dad, why are you doing that? That hose wasn't rolled up when we came here. He goes, I like to leave things better than I found them. Yeah, that's the way he was. He liked to leave things better than the way he found them. But it's very similar to what George Bernard Shaw said here. He says, gentleman is one who puts more into the world than he takes out. So he's giving back. And it's not exactly the same, but it's what made me think of this. And I hope that you can put something into this world worthwhile. We're not going to be remembered forever, but I hope that people will be able to point to you and I someday and realize that we made a difference because we had that kind of a mindset. Okay. All right, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And I do thank you for liking the video. It does help. I appreciate each and every one of you. And I hope you guys have a good day. All right, think about these things. I'll see you tomorrow. In the meantime, be wise.